So, hello everybody and welcome. Yes, welcome back here at BSN Network. Yuki back here, BSN Network. This is the BSN Network podcast here today. It is Monday, May 24th. Hopefully everybody's having a good day so far and had a good rest of their day yesterday. It is in fact Monday, May 24th here today. Hopefully everybody had a good weekend. We're coming off of another big weekend in sports. Yankees complete the weekend series sweep against the Chicago White Sox, winning on Friday night, then winning on Saturday, and then winning again yesterday. And obviously, we're dominating right now. We're 9 games above 500. We're on a 6-game win streak. Obviously, we've won another series yet here, so, we're winning series, we're getting wins, we're starting to really look like the New York Yankees that we all expected at the beginning of the year. The Brooklyn Nets won their first game of the playoffs. 1 down, 15 more games to go. We need 15 wins to get to the playoffs, or to get to the championship, and to win it all, actually. 16 wins to win it all. Obviously, 4 in the first round, 4 in the second, 4 in the Eastern Conference Finals, and 4 there. 4 times 4 is obviously 16. So the Nets are getting one step closer to obviously the goal of getting a championship. Obviously, the Knicks lost over the weekend. They lost yesterday, actually. So a lot to get to today in sports. A lot to get to. To kind of recap the weekend in a little bit of a shorter version, like I said, hopefully everybody had a good weekend. Obviously, a lot of sports to get to today. Obviously, always coming out of the weekends, there's always a little bit more because I don't talk about the sports. I don't talk about, I don't do podcasts over the weekend. I always do them Monday through Friday. So, obviously, it's always a little, coming out of the weekend, there's always a lot more news to get to. But like I mentioned, Yankees with the 3-game sweep, and I said it, I said, if we continue our pitching and continue, the hitting still, the hitting is not quite there yet. Yesterday I believe we had, 10 hits, so yesterday was much better, but the game before that was much better as well. We had 11 hits, and then the game before that, we had 8 hits. So, like I said, the Yankees are slowly starting to get better, or slowly starting to improve. We had 8 hits, 10 hits, or 8 hits, 11 hits, and 10 hits yesterday. So, the Yankees are slowly starting to improve, obviously, which is big in the hitting, and the pitching has been very good. We've actually broken records with our pitching, Yankee records. So the pitching has been dominant. I mean, it's been crazy good, and obviously, the hitting was the kind of the slow part. The hitting was kind of the issue. We weren't getting enough hits. We weren't getting hits with runners in scoring position, but that's not the case right now. We had 8 hits. Then 11 hits, and then yesterday we had 10 hits, including a walk-off walk by Aaron Judge. So the Yankees are starting to finally come around and starting to finally really play well, and that's great news. And then obviously today, we have a day off, and then we head into a series starting tomorrow, a 3-game set against the Blue Jays. And that's a big opportunity, too. A division opponent against a good young Blue Jays team. A good opportunity to, get a win, and Kluber will be on the mound tomorrow as well. So the Yankees got to win. Nets, like I mentioned, got to win. I'm going to talk about that in the first segment, so I don't want to spoil too much about that game. Knicks lost yesterday. I'm also going to talk about that in the first segment. Mets have a day. Mets actually played today. They start up a 4-game set against the Colorado Rockies. They're home, and the Mets lost yesterday as well to the Marlins 5-1. And the Mets are just dealing with it seems like there's a new injury with the New York Mets every day. Seems like there's a new player in their lineup every day, and the New York Nets and the New York Mets are actually now starting to realize what the Yankees had to go through. The Yankees, last year and in the year before that, and this year we haven't gotten hit too hard with the injuries, but we've had some injuries. Obviously, Hicks and Stanton and guys like that. They're starting to really get hit hard with the injury bug, and that's not good for the New York Mets. That's not good for, their big plan this offseason was to bring playoffs back to the Mets, and that's not, they're still above 2 games above 500. They're still atop the NL East, but, more injuries and stuff like that, it's not going good. But they do get DeGrom back. I believe he's back Wednesday, which will be the 3rd game of the 4-game set against the Rockies. Like I said, tonight is the start of a 4-game set against the Rockies. So tonight through Thursday, the Mets will play the Colorado Rockies. Opportunity there to take at least 3 to 4 games. The Rockies are a struggling team, 18-29. I know they had a walk-off yesterday, but still a struggling team that's going through a rebuild. So an opportunity for the Mets to maybe get a couple wins there. But let's get into the topics for today. Like I mentioned, Nets, Knicks playoff update. I'll give you a little bit of an NBA playoff update, but with there being 2 New York sports teams in the playoffs, I would have done this with the NHL if the Rangers were in it, but the Rangers obviously didn't make the playoffs, so I'm going to do it here with the NBA. Obviously, the Nets are in the playoffs, Knicks are in the playoffs, so I really want to talk about their 2 games, talk about, what went on in general, talk about just how great it is to have playoff basketball back, not just playoff basketball in general, because we did have the bubble last season. But just playoff basketball, the atmosphere, the fans in your home stadium, it's just great. It's just awesome. And, you're watching those games and you just get energy watching those games. I mean, they're just so much fun to watch and they're really exciting. And, the Nets game was exciting and even the Knicks game. I think the Knicks game might have been even more exciting as it literally came down to the final shot of the game. Trae Young, went, took his right-hand dribble, went around Frank Ntilikina, put up a little floater, made it, 0.9 left. The Knicks obviously inbounded the ball. Alec Burks gave it to Julius Randle. He didn't even get the shot up before the buzzer, but even if he did, it was an air ball, so they did not win the game. The Knicks lost by 2. So the Knicks lost by 2 points. And the Nets got a pretty comfortable win. Now, it did not start the way the Brooklyn Nets or any Nets fan would have loved to start. But at the end of the day, we did get the win, and we obviously won 104-93. So you got to hope that the Nets continue that and carry that into tomorrow. The Nets have another day off today. Obviously, the Knicks also have a day off today and a day off tomorrow. So the Nets play again tomorrow. Knicks will play on Wednesday. So I'll get into all that stuff. Then some big news in the NFL. The NFL, I feel like, has been a little dormant the past couple weeks here. Obviously, after the NFL draft, teams are doing OTAs and stuff. It's kind of just, teams are starting to just go about their business at this point. We got some big news today. Julio Jones has asked for a trade from the Atlanta Falcons. Obviously, a couple weeks ago, more like a month ago, I was talking about Julio Jones and the Falcons. Falcons said they're willing to trade him. Falcons said they're listening to calls, and some people thought he was going to trade at the draft. Obviously, they couldn't trade him, I believe, until June 1st or May 1st. I don't know exactly when, but obviously, he looks like he's going to get traded today. He said that he's out of there, and it said supposedly today also another thing got released that the Falcons already knew that he's asked for a trade. So Julio has asked for a trade from the Falcons for about a month or 2 now. That's what it said. And today he was on a show, and he said that he's out of there. He does not want to play for Atlanta. He does not plan on playing them for this season. And the Falcons have agreed to trade him. They are still trying to find a place to trade him. It could happen any moment. I mean, when a player requests a trade and the team agrees to trade them, that's when they're looking for deals, they're looking for moves, and that's when a trade will get done probably relatively soon, I would assume. I don't think it's going to be much of a waiting game, as there's going to be a lot of teams that are going to want Julio, and there's going to be a lot of offers, and I would assume the Falcons are going to take at least one of those offers and run with it. So I wanted to talk about that. He officially wants out. We officially know now. And I'm going to talk about kind of the Falcons' future now with them getting rid of him, kind of Matt Ryan's future, and the state of the Atlanta Falcons in a little bit, in a way. I'm not going to go through every single position and tell you their need there, but I'm going to kind of go through, what this could mean for the Atlanta Falcons and the future of this team. Then we'll get into the New York sports update. Like I mentioned, Nets, Knicks, both days off, Yankees day off. Mets play today. Islanders also play today. A big game for the Islanders today. Series tied 2-2. They head back, they head back to Pittsburgh for Game 6 of this series, or Game 5 of this. No, Game 5 of this series. So a big game today for the Islanders. A big game today for the Penguins. That series tied 2-2. Islanders obviously were down 2-1, then they were able to get a win. They were up 2-2 now. I would assume that whoever wins tonight's game is going to have a real good shot at winning the series. And I mean, we're all surprised. Obviously, the Avalanche swept them, so I did get that correct in my bracket. The Avalanche did sweep the St. Louis Blues, so the Avalanche are moving on to the next round. They'll get the winner of the Vegas Golden Knights and Minnesota Wild, and as it stands right now, the Knights have a 3-1 lead on the Wild. So it looks as if the Knights will win that series, although they got a game today, so very well, the Avalanche there's a big possibility the Avalanche find out their opponent after tonight. Crazy how the Oilers are down 3-0. Lightning also could pick up their series win today. And slowly, bit by bit, Bruins obviously beat the Capitals as well. So bit by bit, first round series are starting to come to a close, and we get ready for the second round. But with all that being said, this is the BSN Network podcast, and let's get into it. So obviously, like I just mentioned, the NBA playoffs obviously have began. Like I said just a little bit, like a couple seconds ago, the NHL playoffs have already been in full swing. Obviously started, a week or two ago? I don't even know. I lose track of dates sometimes. But I've been going for a good week and a half now, 2 weeks. So the NHL playoffs is obviously in full swing. I would not say the NBA playoffs is yet in full swing. We've gotten done with one game in each series. Obviously, the NBA playoffs started off on Saturday. Started off with the Trailblazers. Actually started off with the Bucks Heat, which was a great game. Went into overtime. Bucks did win that game. I was wrong about that. I thought the Heat would win that game. I had a feeling the Heat were going to run away with this series. I said the Heat. Did I say the Heat would win in 5 or 6? I don't know. Either way, the Heat still could win, but that's a different story, different day. First of all, I just want to say this. I know I say this a lot, but it was great. It was great to see fans back in the building for playoffs. Obviously, fans have been in the building for the season. Obviously, the season started out with no fans, and then now they've obviously have started out with some fans, and obviously, it's been a good over half the season now has had fans, but the fans increased a lot for playoffs, especially for the Knicks and the Nets, and obviously it was great. It definitely looked like a packed house, and it's great to see fans back in the building. It's great to have that energy. It's just as a fan standpoint too. When they were playing with empty stadiums, it's all that fake crowd noise. Like, sitting there and watching as a fan, it was just like, it was just like, obviously you're still happy that you're watching basketball and stuff. And you can't complain too much, but still, with the fans in there, them chanting, it's actually like a real atmosphere, a real game. And I'll tell you what, both Barclays Center, the Nassau Coliseum, and the New York Knicks, obviously MSG, Madison Square Garden, those three stadiums were rocking over the weekend. Obviously, you had the Islanders, Nassau Coliseum rocking for that game. Obviously, the Islanders did come out victorious in that game. That stadium was rocking. Obviously, that game took place on, Saturday, I believe. They ended up winning that game. That place was rocking. Then you had the Nets as well, was rocking as well. And obviously, you had the Knicks as well. MSG was also rocking. So the three New York sports playoff teams that are currently in the playoffs were rocking. But to get to the games, obviously the Brooklyn Nets got the win against the Boston Celtics, and the New York Knicks took the loss against the Atlanta Hawks. Obviously some questionable calls late in that Knicks game, and it's no surprise it's involving Trae Young. It's like it happens every single game with him. There's always a controversial call with Trae Young. There's always, some sort of controversy around him. And as much as he's a talented player, as much as he's a fun player to watch, he is. I think I don't know if I should say fun player to watch. When you're watching him, he can be a little annoying at times. Not in terms of, attitude-wise, just in terms of the way he plays the game. He draws a lot of fouls. He tries to draw a lot of fouls. He gets to the free throw line a lot. As some people might word it, he's kind of a flopper. He's a guy that might get hit a little bit and make it look like he got, destroyed. And obviously, but he does play the game with a lot of passion. He plays the game with a lot of energy. He's young. He's the future of the league. He's got a bright future ahead of him. He's a bright future of the Hawks. He's the face of the franchise there. So, obviously, a tough loss for the Knicks. A very tough loss for the Knicks. And it was very tough because first game in 8 years, first playoff game, not just game, but first playoff game in 8 years, you're back at the Garden. It's game one. So, it's not like they didn't have home field advantage. This is their first game. This is their first game. It's not like they were playing in Atlanta as their first playoff game in 8 years. This was their first playoff game in 8 years. Knicks fans are excited about their team. The crowd was roaring. I got to admit, I was flipping back and forth between Sunday Night Baseball and the Knicks game. So I was flipping back and forth, and, the Knicks game was roaring and all that stuff, and so was the Nets, and obviously tough way for the Knicks to go down. Like I said, I'm not going to sit here and cry about it. Like I said, I'm not rooting for anyone. Like I said, the Hawks, Knicks, I could care less who wins that series. Not trying to be mean. I'm a Nets fan. I'm focused on the Nets. I'm not rooting. I'm not rooting for any particular team. I just want the Nets to win it all. That's my hope. And then you get to the Nets game, also very, very, very loud there and roaring. And let's get into the Nets game, obviously, first, because this was the first game that happened and I'll go in order, obviously. This was the first game that happened. I'm sure some of you might not, it seems like it's kind of crazy because you had it on Saturday. Then, all the games yesterday, come on Monday. It seems like such a long time ago, but it did only happen on Saturday. Obviously, the Nets got the win 104-93. We moved to 1-0 in the series, and as usual for the Brooklyn Nets, we got off to a slow start, and that's been the case for this entire year with this Brooklyn Nets basketball team, and it's I don't know if it's concerning as a fan as much as it's just annoying as a fan. You're all ready for the game, you're sitting there, and the team gets off to a slow start. Nets fans have been waiting for this, including myself. We've been waiting for the Brooklyn Nets. We've been waiting for this for such a long time since Kyrie and KD signed to the team. And obviously, like I said, Harden ended up trading to them this season. And this big three, and we've been waiting for the playoffs. And we've just been wanting to get here. And you get to the playoffs, and, they're off to a slow start. And they got off to a really flat start. They only scored 16 points in the first quarter, went down 21-16 after the first quarter. And, as a Net fan, as a sports fan I'm genuinely concerned. Like I said, it's the first quarter. You got a lot more time to go. But as a Net fan, I'm genuinely concerned. As a fan of sports, I'm concerned. I do go very hard on my teams. I don't give my teams much slack sometimes. I don't sugarcoat things. The Nets got off to a bad start, and they looked terrible to start the game. They did not look like a team that should be competing for a finals. But hey, they went out second quarter. They scored 31 points. They go into halftime down by 4. So it's not terrible. It's not awful, right? Down by 4, I think, or whatever. It was something like that. It's not awful. It's not terrible. It's not ideal. It's not something that we should be proud of. Going to halftime down, down against the Celtics. You would expect against a team that has struggled, had to go into the play-in in order to get to this game. You would think you would get off to a quick start. The fans and stuff. But hey, nerves, all the pressure, Barkley's setting being, pounding like it was. You got to expect maybe a little bit of nerves and a little bit of rustiness out of the gate. And then the Nets came out in the second half. And I don't know what they did at halftime. Whether they had a meeting, whether there was a speech, whether they just, were in there and just were dialed in. But whatever they did, it worked. They came out in the second half, third quarter, was 31-20. They outscored the Celtics by 11 points, 31 points by the Nets, 20 by the Celtics. And all of a sudden, the Brooklyn Nets look like they're running away with this game. And their defense got better. Their offense got even better. And they made the Celtics look silly. They really did. They made the Celtics look silly. And you go into the fourth quarter, and obviously they win 26-20 there. And they win by a final of 104-93. And like I said, as a Nets fan, I got to be ready for this next game and throughout the playoffs. Was I surprised that the Brooklyn Nets got off to a quick start? Not really. Now, there's that part of me that was surprised because, yeah, it's the big three. We're healthy. It's a packed Barclays Center. The Celtics are a team that we swept in the regular season, a team that we've had their number, a team that we've been dominant against. So am I surprised that we were off to a slow start? Part of me said yes. Now, part of me says no, because you look at the regular season and the Nets, that's all they do is get off to slow starts. I always go back to this Rockets game. We were down by, 25 or something. We were getting crushed. And it was like 20-4 or something to start the game. We were getting smoked. It looked like we were going to get crushed. The Nets slowly creeped their way back, ended up winning the game. Right? So, obviously, there was part of me that was like, oh, yeah, I'm surprised. Like, Barclays Center, it's packed, it's pounding, playoff game. We've been waiting for this. Like, you would think they would come right out of the gate ready. Yes, they got nerves, but you also got to realize KD, Harden, and Kyrie have got a lot of playoff experience. So, it's not like this was their first playoff game. It's not like this was their first, rodeo. I mean, they've had experience. But, with all the pressure, the nerves, there's always nerves before playoff games. If you're not nervous before a playoff game, I'm nervous as a fan. I was just ready. I was waiting all day for the game to come on. I was just ready. I was ready to watch that game. And, obviously, then you obviously get, the slow start, but they did pick it up. So, like I said, I'm very happy the Nets won. Now, as a fan right here, this game's in the rear view. This game's over with, right? After today, we're not talking about this game. This game's over with. We focus on tomorrow, and that's obviously the hope of the Nets, right? This game's done with. It happened on Saturday. Today's Monday. Maybe yesterday they had an off day. Yesterday might have been their day to enjoy the first win, but now we got to focus up. We got to get ready for Game 2 because that this makes Game 2, and same thing for the Knicks. I'll get to them in a second here. This makes Game 2 for the Brooklyn Nets that much bigger. And the Celtics. If the Nets win Game 2, they did their job. They took 2 at home. They started up 2-0. They did everything what a lot of people expected them to do. Crushed the Celtics early on. Then you had the Boston. Now, Boston might be tough, with their fans and stuff, but I'm not too worried. Maybe you take one out of Boston, you come back home 3-1, boom, you get an opportunity to win it at home. Tomorrow, Game 2 is a lot of times a big game. Now, if the Nets lose tomorrow, it's not the end of the world, but that then makes Game 3 a big game for the Nets, because then you can't fall down 2-1 in the series and have to win Game 4. So the Nets definitely tomorrow, right, they've got a cushion. If they lose tomorrow, it's not the end of the world. Celtics, if they lose tomorrow and they go down 2-0, yes, they're heading home, but realistically, the Nets would just have to take one in Boston and come home with a 3-1 lead, and that would be awesome. So, I guess it's all how it plays out. It's kind of all how, they figure out how to play it. But right now, the Brooklyn Nets finish strong. Besides the first quarter, the second, third, and fourth quarter, they looked very good. The big three scored 82 points combined, led by Kevin Durant's 32, Irving's 29, and Harden's 21. They scored 82 points. The rest of the team, I believe, scored, 22 points? Total of 104. Kevin Durant had 32 points, 12 rebounds, 1 assist. Kyrie Irving had 29 points, 6 rebounds, 1 assist. And James Harden had 21 points, 9 rebounds, and 8 assists. So he was 2 assists shy and 1 rebound shy of a triple-double. And, obviously, the Brooklyn Nets here, obviously KD was not great from the three-point line. Neither was Kyrie, neither was Harden. The Nets in general are not great from the three-point. The Nets shot 24% from three-point. The Celtics also only shot 37%. So neither team was very good. But I know a lot of people are going to look at the Nets and say the 82 points by the big three, and I'm not avoiding that. I'm not saying that wasn't good. That was very good. I'm very proud of that. But it was our second half defense that really made the difference. Now, don't get me wrong. Did the Celtics play that good of offense in the first half? No. But it was good enough to, have the lead against us. It was the second half, though, where the Nets, I believe, limited Tatum and Kemba, or something, where they were like 0 for 10 from 3. And let me tell you, the Celtics did not have a great first quarter, too. They only scored 21 points. We've seen games where teams would score up to 35, 40 points in the first quarter. They only scored 21. The Nets only scored 16. So, I look at this game as, hey, it's the game 1. There might have been some, there was nervousness, I'm sure. And the Nets played 3 really good quarters. The first quarter was worrisome. It wasn't great. You want to throw that one out. But the 3 quarters after that, second, third, and obviously, especially the third, coming right out of halftime, right out of the gate, they were firing on all cylinders. Then the fourth was kind of just the cherry on top. They added, some extra points, added some, bonus stuff, and they took a big lead, and they ended up winning by 11. So, a very good win by the Nets. I like the way they played. Sure, I would love the Nets to start getting off to quicker starts, because then you don't want to play from behind, especially in the playoffs. If you're playing from behind, then that's just not good. Especially with the Nets, they have a lot of good talent. They can make stuff happen. If they're playing from behind, they won't be able to get that done. So yes, it was a good win by the Brooklyn Nets. It was 3 very good quarters played. We move 1-0 in the series, and now we get ready for tomorrow, where we play Game 2. And if we win Game 2 tomorrow, we looking real good to win the series. You got to give the Celtics maybe 1 at home. Then if the Nets take at least 1 in Boston, you come back home with a 3-1 lead, boom, you can win it that night. So an opportunity here for the Nets tomorrow to really bust it open and to really get this series going. So that's what I got for the Nets game. Nets win 104-93. We move to 1-0 in the playoffs, and obviously the first win of hopefully 16 wins, so we have 15 more wins to go. I don't want to look ahead. Like I said, playoffs, regular season, big time to just take it game by game by game by game. And if you're a New York Knicks fan today, you got to forget about this one tomorrow. Forget about the ending, especially as you had a great opportunity late in that game to win, and you kind of blew it in the final 5 minutes of the game, and that's what happened yesterday with the New York Knicks. Obviously, the New York Knicks lost 107-105 yesterday, so the Hawks move up 1-0 in the series. Knicks obviously fall in the first game, and, another way for the Knicks, slow start. And this was one of the issues for the New York Knicks. It was a slow start. And what was different about the Nets and the Knicks' slow starts was the fact that the Nets' slow start was very, very, very... The fact with the Nets' slow start, it was very... how do I word it? The Nets' slow start was very slow. But they were able to bounce back and rebound the rest of the way. Now, not saying the Knicks weren't able to do that, but I did feel like the Knicks this game never got a very comfortable lead. And not saying that I expected the New York Knicks to blow out the Atlanta Hawks. Like I said, I forget a little bit what I said, so I don't know if I said the Knicks in 5 or 6. I don't know if I had the series going to 7. Whatever it is. Like I said, the New York Knicks, obviously, I was not expecting them to blow this game out. These are two very evenly teams. You got to give offense, you got to give it to the Hawks. Defense, you got to give it to the Knicks. That in itself, you just say good offense, good defense. You're going against each other. That in itself is a very even matchup. A good coach in Tom Thibodeau, a good coach in Nate McMillan. So obviously, really good guard play. One star. Julius Randle, a really good player on that team. Really good player in Trae Young. These teams are very evenly matched. So I was expecting a close game. But what I found was what was different with the Nets, and I'm not trying to compare the Nets to the Knicks. They're two completely different teams. They have two completely different play styles. I'm not trying to compare them to. What I'm trying to say is what was different is, yes, the Knicks were able to bounce back in that second quarter, and they outscored the Hawks by 6, and they went into halftime only down by 2 instead of 8. I get that. But I still found like they were still in a way kind of like never got too of a comfortable lead. They were winning, they were down, then they went down by 2, then they come out at halftime and they're winning, and you're like, okay, or what was it? I think it was actually, they outscored them by 4. So they're winning by 2 points going into the fourth quarter, I believe, right? So you're sitting there as a Knicks fan, and you're like, okay, we're playing pretty well. We're playing pretty well. And you go into the fourth quarter, and they outscore you by 4, and all of a sudden you lose by 2. So the Knicks were never able to get a very big lead on the Atlanta Hawks. They were never able to really get a big gap. They were never really able to play their type of game, I feel like. And I'll tell you what would really hurt the New York Knicks, and I'm not going to sit here and blame it all on Julius Randle because he's been their best player, and he obviously actually scored the most points out of the entire starting rotation, but Julius Randle was not good in Game 1. He was not good at all. He went 6 for 23 field goals, 2 for 6 from three-point percentage, and he missed a free throw. He obviously went 1 for 2 from free throws, but he missed it. And a big thing with the New York Knicks was their free throw shooting. Burks went 6 for 8, 1 for 2, 1 for 2. They missed some free throws down the stretch. They only shot 73% from free throw, which is terrible, considering some teams could shoot up to 85, 90, which is the Hawks yesterday, shot 92%. And the Knicks took, Knicks took more free throws than them. And, big free throws late in games when the Knicks weren't able to capitalize on that, that was a big loss. But what I really think the storyline of this game for the New York Knicks was they were never able to get too much cushion. And for a talented team like the Hawks, if you only give them if you're only up by them, if you're only winning by 4 points against the Atlanta Hawks, they're going to make you pay. They're not going to lose the Hawks are going to come back. They're too talented not to. The New York Knicks were never able to get too much cushion, and then if the Knicks got an 8-9 point lead, that's when they would really apply the pressure, and the Atlanta Hawks wouldn't be able to come back. But the Knicks were never able to get into that type of groove, and it was really led by the terrible shooting of Julius Randle, and I'm going to be blamed with it. I'm not a Knicks fan. I'm not someone that, I'm not a Knicks fan. I'm not someone that, watches every Knicks game and, knows everything about Julius Randle. But from what I've heard and what I've seen in the games I've watched and the stuff that I know, Julius Randle was terrible last night, and there's no sugarcoating that. Yes, he scored the most points out of the entire starting rotation, but he was not good. He shot 6 for 23, had 15 points. He did have 12 rebounds and 4 assists, so you got to give it to him, 12 rebounds. But late in that game, not making, he obviously made that late three, but even then, it's just too little too late. And the Knicks missed some key shots late. Alec Burks did take over. He had 27 points. You got to give it to him. He shot 3 for 5 from 3 and 9 for 13 overall. But even him, he missed 2 free throws in that game too. That could be the difference. If the Knicks don't shoot 73% from the free throw line, that could be the difference. If Julius Randle makes a couple of those shots, there's a very good chance that, there was a couple good looks Randle had late in that game, and he was passing them up because he knew he was struggling, because he knew he wasn't doing well. There was one three-pointer he took. It didn't even hit rim. It hit the right side of the backboard. So, it obviously, definitely the Knicks this was not the best Knicks team. But hey, if you want to look at a positive as a New York Knicks fan, and I don't know what Knicks fan you are, there's some Knicks fans that are probably insanely negative today and are probably like, this is going to be the same thing as it was. This is the same old Knicks. Yes, we made the playoffs, but we're going to get swept. There might be some of those Knicks fans. There might be some Knicks fans that believe in this team. I would tend to lean to the side of believing in the team because the Knicks, showed us all year long that they are a good team, that they don't need any big name player to get the job done. Tom Thibodeau, his rotation management and bringing in the guys when he needs to, he can get the job done. We've seen that out of the New York Knicks, but that makes game 2 now a must-win for the New York Knicks because the New York Knicks cannot go down 2-0. Number one, you can't go down 2-0. 2-0 is very tough to come back from, let alone going down 2-0, then having to go to Atlanta, and the Hawks are a very good home team. A very good home team. So, maybe this was... I would just like to say this. The Knicks were not the New York Knicks last night. This was not the New York Knicks team we've seen all year long. That wasn't. That was not the old Knicks team. It was just not the Knicks team we saw this year. Their defense wasn't that great. Their offense was definitely not that great, although that's not the strength of this team, but their offense definitely could be better, especially Julius Randle, a guy who, has had a lot of big games this year and has been the best player on the team. He was not great. There's no way to sugarcoat it. He was 6 for 23. He only had 15 points. He did have 12 rebounds. If you want to look at a positive, he did have 12 rebounds. He did have a double-double. But for a guy that's had some big 30, 35, I think he's had a 40-point game this season. He might have, I don't know exactly. But for a guy that's had a lot of big moments this season, to come out like that, flat, was definitely tough. And I know there's a lot of people that are going to debate on that inbound play. He had 0.9 seconds left. So there's obviously still a golden opportunity on the New York Knicks to, make that shot. But... I don't think it was intended for Julius Randle. I really don't. I don't think Tom Thibodeau, everyone's, blaming Tom Thibodeau for making that call. I don't think Tom Thibodeau made that. I don't think that was a play that was written up for Randle. I think it was either for, I don't know who exactly was on the court then, but I know Alec Burks was on the court. I think it might have been a catch and shoot for Burks, but Burks might have been covered. And you had no timeouts. No team had any timeouts. So the Knicks had to get it in. Or I believe Burks was actually inbounding the ball. Never mind. So, I think he was. I'd have to go look back at it again. I do think Quickly, might have been on the court as well. I do not think that play was intended for Randle. Nor when they threw it in, it looked like Randle was expecting it. It was kind of like he threw it in, he stuck his hand up and just turned around and shot it. I don't think he was really expecting it. But 0.9 seconds left, even though it's not much, it was, you could probably get the ball, dribble, shoot. Randle got it, bobbled it a little bit, and then, try to fade away, and it obviously he was still in his hands when the shot clock or the game clock went off, whatever, the buzzer sounded, obviously, but at the same time, even if he got it off in time, it was an air ball, and he was contested heavily. So I don't think that was anything there. If you want to ask me on the Trae Young play before you even ask me that, I can answer that right now. I don't think it was a good call. I've expressed myself on Trae Young a lot on this show. That I do think he exaggerates a lot of his foul calls. I do think that's something the NBA needs to fix, is foul calls. Flopping, I am very annoyed with. I don't think it was a good call, but does that mean blaming the game on the refs? No, I would not blame the game on the refs. The Knicks hurt themselves in this game. They missed some free throws late. They were not their best defense. You brought in Frank Ntilikina to help guard Trae Young, and he got burned. The New York Knicks did not play their best game. You cannot sit here as a Knicks fan. You cannot today be a Knicks fan and you say that this game was on the refs. There was a lot of stuff the Knicks could have done better. They were not their best defensively, definitely not their best offensively. Even though offense isn't their strength, they were not that good in offense. Missed some free throws late. Their defense was not very good late. They were winning this game by 6, 7 points late, and then then they came back. And Frank Ntilikina too. That's a play. They brought him in for defense. Trae Young burned him. He absolutely burned him. And Ntilikina's got to know that too. Trae Young, he can go with the left hand. Trae Young's strength is going to the right hand. You got to know that if you're Ntilikina. You got to. So, Knicks, I feel like, hurt themselves in this game more than anything else. It wasn't the refs. I don't even know if it was just, the nervousness of this team. They just hurt themselves. They made some errors. They missed some shots. Weren't at the top of their game. I look at this as this was not the New York Knicks team we've seen this year. They're better than this. And they got a big game coming up on Wednesday. They got to bounce back because that's a must-win game. You cannot go to Atlanta with the fans there, with the loud crowd. You know that. You know that place is going to be rocking. Plus, Atlanta's already a very good home team. Wednesday's a must-win for the New York Knicks. To go through some of the stats, Julius Randle, 15 points. Barrett, 14. Noel, 6. Bullock, 6. What's kind of getting lost in the mix is Noel's injury. You got to hope he's back, because if he's not back, there's a good shot the Knicks might not win this series, as that's how big of he is for this team. Derrick Rose at 17 points. Obviously, Alex Burks led the way with 27 points, and Emmanuel Quickley had 10 points. I look at this game as the bench gave a lot of great production. The starters did not do much. Noel, Bullock only had 6 apiece, and he obviously had Randle only 15. He had Barrett 14. So, the bench did the heavy work with the 17 points, then 27, and then 10, and then Obi Toppin had some nice plays, and I know Barrett had that big poster, but this was not the New York Knicks we were used to seeing. Not as physical, not as great on defense. The Knicks just got to be better, and we'll see how they bounce back on their Wednesday game. So that's what I got for the Nets and the Knicks playoff update, kind of just, their game ones and what happened in them. And obviously, if you go around the rest of the league, obviously, the Trailblazers got the win against the Nuggets. Mavericks took the win against the Clippers. Bucks took game 1 against the Heat. And then yesterday's games, you had Grizzlies beating the Jazz. Obviously, the Jazz down 1-0 with the Grizzlies. I was not expecting this, but the Grizzlies, obviously, Donovan Mitchell was out. So the Grizzlies took game 1. Donovan Mitchell's not happy now with the team with how they handled his injury, so we'll see how all that plays out. Suns got the win against the Lakers, and the Sixers topped the Wizards. Those were all of your game 1s. And today we got the Bucks Heat again, second game of that series, and the Nuggets Trailblazers, second game of that series. And a big game tonight for the Heat, because the Heat, they can, if they fall down, you would love to get a win tonight, then head back home to Miami to play 2 there. And I think it's a golden opportunity to take 2 at home. I still don't believe in the Bucks. Not the Hawks. Bucks. Them too. I still think the Knicks will probably win the series. Now, game 2 is big. If the Knicks lose tomorrow, I don't think Wednesday. If the Knicks lose Wednesday, I don't think the Knicks win the series. I still believe the Knicks can come back, though. It's one game. 6 more at most. We'll see how it all plays out. But that's what I got for the NBA and the Nets-Knicks playoff update. Coming up next here, I want to get into Julio Jones. This has been a hot topic around the the NFL, with Julio Jones and the star receiver, obviously in the trade rumors that have been going on for the past couple months. Now, officially today came out that Julio has asked for a trade. Now, it's not like he just asked for a trade. He asked for it a couple months ago, they're saying. So, the Falcons kept it quiet. The Falcons kind of kept it, to themselves, and now today Julio's came out publicly, came out on a show and said it, and the Falcons have also said that he has requested a trade. So, the Falcons are taking calls, the Falcons want to trade him, they're looking for the best deal. I'll get into all that stuff coming up next. Alrighty, so first of all, let me just read you this. So Julio Jones, alright, so this is who people think, this is the live odds right now for Julio Jones. So, the Falcons are still arguably one of the favorites to still have him. Even though he's requested a trade and they're trying to trade him, there's obviously times where he doesn't go, where they don't go anywhere. Now, I think he is going to get traded now, definitely now that they've requested a trade. But some of the other teams are the Patriots, Colts, Titans, 49ers, Cowboys, Chargers, Ravens, Raiders, Jaguars, Browns, and Packers are some of the teams. Now, if you're a Packers, you might be wondering why in the world is he going there. Well, it actually makes sense because if the Packers want to keep Rodgers, getting Julio might be the way of keeping him, but that all depends. So I talked about this not a couple weeks ago, more like a month ago, and not really a couple. I mean, it's a month, a couple. It was a little bit ago. I guess a couple weeks is it could just mean weeks ago. But this is before I knew anything about him requesting a trade. Now, today, we learn that he has requested a trade. And obviously, Julio Jones, trade rumors, Falcons wide receiver requested deal a few months ago. Atlanta is listening. So, we obviously heard a few months ago that the Falcons were taking calls. This was before the NFL draft. This was before everything like that. That the Atlanta Falcons were taking calls on Julio Jones. And they were a team that was very active. They were a team that a lot of people, believe we're going to get rid of their star number one receiver and, arguably one of the better receivers out there. And that's been a chat for a little bit now. Now, I do change my stance on this Julio thing here with the Atlanta Falcons. Now, a couple weeks ago or whenever I talked about it, I said that I do not think the Falcons should trade Julio. I still believe he can be a guy that can be a strong mentor. They brought in Kyle Pitts. You got Kyle Pitts, Ridley, and Julio. That's a really good receiving core. And you look at that team, and you're like, they're still a talented team. They just need to fix some things on defense, and maybe they can be competitive again. And I said that I would not trade Julio. Now, I have changed my stance on this. Now, not saying that the Falcons trading Julio will help them. I don't really know if it will, but the fact now that Julio Jones has requested a trade, it makes sense now why the Falcons are trying to trade Julio. Now, Julio has been a big part of not only the Falcons, but the city of Atlanta and Atlanta sports. He's obviously been the face of the franchise and arguably the face of Atlanta sports. I mean, the guy that's such a big name. He's a big name around the NFL. He's done so much for the Falcons. He's got them a lot of big wins, a lot of big catches. He's arguably one of the best receivers in the NFL, and I still believe right now he can still be a really good receiver. I would not consider Julio Jones really crazy out of his prime. I wouldn't. I know a lot of people out there might say that, Julio Jones, he's out of his prime. I don't really think that. When he's healthy, last season he obviously struggled to stay healthy, but when this guy's healthy, when you watch him play, I mean, sure, he might be declining a little bit, but it's not like he's fully out of his prime and he's not good anymore. I mean, this is a guy that's still got a lot left in the tank and can still be a very dominant force for whatever team gets him. So the Falcons are going to be losing a lot. They're also going to be gaining a lot. And that's where I'm kind of debating on. When I talked about this deal originally, I kind of said that I don't know if I'm the Falcons. I don't know if I trade Julio. Yes, a hindsight 2020. Yes, the big picture you might say, we could get draft picks. We'll get maybe another young receiver to pair with, Ridley. And obviously this was before the NFL draft, but, we all had a feeling that they were going to take Kyle Pitts. And you're sitting there and you got a really good feeling like, okay, we can get more picks and stuff like that. That's why a lot of people thought this deal was going to happen on draft night. And sure enough, it still hasn't happened. It looks like the Falcons are looking for a first-round pick, which might be where there might be a couple halt on some of the conversations. But, I mean, I'm going to give you this. I know a lot of people out there might not want Julio to leave the Falcons, and there might be some people out there that if they do get Julio, they might not want to give up too much. But I will tell you this about Julio Jones. The Falcons are going to get a lot. Whatever team gets Julio Jones, they're going to need to give up a lot because this guy can still be a dominant force for a team, a deep ball threat, a veteran in the locker room, a smart player, a guy that has experienced a lot in his career. He's experienced winning, he's experienced losing, he's been in a Super Bowl, he's been in big moments. He says that he wants to be in a winning organization. It's a guy that's going for a ring now. He's a guy that's going to try to go for a ring. I wouldn't really consider, he could technically be considered ring chasing in a way where he just goes to a team that can win a ring, but this is a guy that's going to be a big part of the team. And the Falcons are going to be missing a lot. And like I said, this is not a guy that, isn't good anymore. He's not one of these washed up receivers that's just a big name because of what he did earlier in his career. It's a guy that could still be a dominant force for any team. I want to make that clear. He could still be a dominant force for whoever gets him. And the Falcons are going to be missing a lot in Julio Jones. It's not like A.J. Green leaving the Bengals to go join the Cardinals. I believe he joined the Cardinals, right? It's not like that. A.J. Green's not that good anymore. He's old. He's out of his prime. He's had too many injuries. Julio Jones, on the other hand, yes, he's getting older, but I mean, the guy is still a very good receiver. And he could still be a top receiver in this league. Not number one, because you got guys like Hopkins and Diggs and guys like that in the league now. But still, I think a top 10, top 7, when healthy, you could maybe say top 5. Top 5 might be pushing it a little too much, especially with the up-and-coming players like, guys like, DK Metcalf and obviously Stephon Diggs had a really good year last year. And, Devontae Adams and all those guys. He might not stand with them right now, but he's still a top 10 receiver in the league in my book. He still is. He still is. So the Falcons are going to be giving up a lot. Now, personally, a team that could look at him, I would probably say if I had to put money on this, I'm not going to. If I had to put money on this, where do I think Julio Jones is going to land? I think he's going to go to the Tennessee Titans. I do. Now, you might ask yourself, why the Titans? Well, I'll give you a couple reasons why. Number one, they're a winning team. He says he wants to go to a team that's winning. They're a winning team. Now, you could say the Patriots are too. I don't know if I would consider the Patriots a winning team right now. They went out, spent a lot of money in free agency. That doesn't mean they're good. There's been a lot of times where teams went out and spent a lot of money and they do nothing. Also quarterback-wise, I don't know how I feel about Cam Newton and Julio. Now, you are setting up Julio and Mac Jones, which could be good, but Cam, it looks like, will start there. Obviously, as for, obviously Cam Newton and Mac Jones there. And then, as for the Titans, why I think he would be a great fit would be because he would obviously be with Tannehill. He would be in a really good lane. He would be in a really good, just offensive system there. And I could also see I could also see the Titans with them losing Corey Davis this offseason, who was their second best receiver, and then with them losing Jonnu Smith, those are two big losses. Obviously, Corey Davis went to the Jets, and Jonnu Smith was one of the many offseason moves the New England Patriots made. Now it's just A.J. Brown. But then you add Julio, you could look at A.J. Brown, Julio, Derrick Henry, Ryan Tannehill, and that offense all of a sudden is really looking to shape up. So, best landing spot, probably Titans. What I think would be create crazy good storylines would be the Cowboys. Because then that creates a lot of great storylines. The Cowboys getting Julio Jones. You have Dak Prescott, Ezekiel Elliott. Then you got CeeDee Lamb, Amari Cooper, and Julio Jones. I mean, that receiving core is just full of weapons. Weapons. Weapon after weapon after weapon. So in terms of what I think would be most fun to watch and would create the most news, probably the Cowboys. Because you got Dak Prescott and you got all the big names. Cowboys are a big name organization to begin with. And then if you look at, a team like the Tennessee Titans, that team would make a whole lot of sense because, you lost Corey Davis and you lost, Jonnu Smith, two big parts of that offense. You could bring in Julio, then you got A.J. Brown, mentor him, Derrick Henry. The Titans and Derrick Henry and A.J. Brown have already said they wanted him. That could be a great situation as well. Patriots, I don't know how I feel about that. But like I said, it's a golden opportunity for Julio to go to a winning team, get a fresh start. Falcons get a fresh start as well. When the Falcons are going to be losing a lot, they're going to be losing a lot. They're going to be losing Julio Jones, which is a lot. They are going to be gaining a lot as well with whatever they get in return. And I do believe Julio is going to need to be a first-round pick. I know some people don't believe he is. Look at the numbers. Look at what the guy can do in the locker room and stuff like that. He's a very good veteran to a team and, still a dominant receiver in the NFL. All right, so let's get into the article here. Julio Jones trade rumors. Falcons wide receiver requested deal a few months ago. Atlanta listening. Atlanta Falcons wide receiver Julio Jones reportedly requested a trade from a team a few months ago. According to Ian Rappaport of NFL Network, the team agreed to listen to offers, but it doesn't guarantee he will be dealt. It won't. He very well cannot be dealt, but there could be a good chance. The report comes out after Julio Jones told Undisputed on Monday that he is leaving Atlanta. Now I'm out of there, man. That's what Julio Jones tells Shannon Sharp. He's leaving Atlanta and doesn't want to go to the Cowboys, Dallas, because he wants to go to somewhere he can win. The wideout has 3 years remaining on his deal, and Atlanta will owe $23.3 million in dead cap if it trades him before June 1st per Spot Track. The 2021 cap hit drops to $7.8 million if he is dealt after June 1st. Atlanta is coming off of a 4-12 season and already has a reliable replacement at receiver in Calvin Ridley, first-round pick Kyle Pitts should also be a huge addition to the passing attack. That could allow the Falcons to deal Jones for future assets while still remaining competitive offensively. The team finished fifth in the NFL in passing yards in 2020, even though Jones missed 7 games because of a hamstring injury. There should be plenty of interest in Jones, who is one of the top receivers of his era. The 32-year-old has earned 7 Pro Bowl selection in 10 years and was twice named a first-team All-Pro. He had at least 80 catches and 1,300 receiving yards in 6 straight seasons from 2014 to 2019, until being limited in 2020, although he still finished with 51 catches for 771 yards and 3 touchdowns. His career average of 95.5 receiving yards per game is also easily the most in NFL history. The New England Patriots have reportedly held internal discussions about Julio, about acquiring Jones, per Mike Girardi of the NFL Network. But the Baltimore Ravens also asked about the receiver before the draft. But talks didn't get far, per Jeff Drybick, or Drebick, something like that, I don't know. Yeah, so that was that. And Drybick of The Athletic. So, that's that. You're going to have to give up a lot for him. You will. That is something you're going to have to do. There's no doubt about that. You're going to have to give up a lot about it. You're going to have to give up a lot for him, and that's just how it is. So, we'll see how it all plays out, but definitely creating some big storylines here on what's going to happen with Julio Jones. And, I get it. The Falcons still have a good offense and still have a lot of young talent. But you also got to look at it as they are going to be listing the face of the franchise and arguably one of the better receivers in the league. So, we'll see how it all plays out. All right, we got to see here. We got to get back to that. All right. So let's get into the NBA here. Like I said, yesterday's games. Let's get into the New York Sports Update here. Today we got going the Bucks and the Heat. I'm going to give Heat the win. And then the Nuggets Trailblazers. I got to admit, the Nuggets did not look good last game. They did not look good. What was the final score of that game? 123-109. They did not look good. As much as I want to give the Nuggets the win, I could see the Trailblazers pulling out another win here. I could. Now, obviously, that wouldn't be good for my bracket, but the Trailblazers looked really good. As for the NHL, yesterday I mentioned the Bruins won their series 3-1. Oilers won 5-4, or Jets won 5-4. Came all the way back from, 3-0 deficit? And came all the way back there. Avalanche won 5-2, and the Predators won 4-3. So the Predators even up that series. Avalanche sweep the Blues, and the Bruins beat the Capitals in 5 games. Avalanche sweep the Blues, so those two teams are moving on. As for the games on today, we got the Penguins Islanders. I'll give Islanders the win. Might as well, right? Maple Leafs Canadiens, give Maple Leafs the win. Then we got the Panthers Lightning. I will give the Lightning the win and the series win today. Jets Oilers. I'm surprised the Oilers are down 3-0. I think the Oilers will win today. I think they will. Personally, I think first off, last night's game. This could possibly be a letdown game for the Jets. Last night's game was an overtime game, a later game. I'm sure there's a lot of talk about it around the NHL right now. This could be a letdown game. Now, do I think the Oilers does not look like they're going to win the series? It does not look like that. But I think the Oilers might snag one today. then they might just lose after that. And then we got the Golden Knights Wild. I'm going to give Knights the win. I do think they win the series and play the Avalanche in the second round. As for the weekend games, Yankees obviously swept the White Sox. And as for today's games, we got the Marlins Phillies. I'll give Marlins the win. Tigers Indians. I'll give Tigers the win. Royals. And the Blue Jays Rays. I'll give Blue Jays the win. Or actually, let's see who's favored. Let's see who's favored in this game. Yeah, I'll give Tampa the win, actually. 59% of bets are on Tampa. Yeah, Tampa opened up as the favorite. Who's on the mound for the Blue Jays? Oh, are they doing a Thornton? Who's on the mound for the Rays? Oh, yeah, I'll give Rays the win. Yarbo's on the mound. All right, so I'll give Rays the win there. That game's an early game. Where was I at? Okay, then I'm at the Orioles Twins. I'll give Orioles the win. Actually, yeah, Orioles the win. Twins are terrible. Brewers Padres. I'll give Padres the win. White Sox Cardinals. I'll give Lance Lynn on them. Yeah, White Sox to win. And then A's Mariners. I'll give A's the win. Mets play today, 7:10 p.m. Eastern Time on SNY. Mets coming in this game 21-19. Rockies coming in this game 18-29. Gomber's on the mound for the Rockies. Peterson's on the mound for the Mets. As much as Peterson has been shaky with a 4.97 ERA, and that fifth spot for the New York Mets has been shaky, I'm going to give the Mets the win. It's the Rockies. They're struggling. I'm going to give the Mets the win. Like I said, the Yankees have a day off today. They do not play anyone today. They have a day off. So we'll see. We'll see how it all plays out there. As for the MLB, I'm currently, let's see here. So I'm currently 4-3 on the season. If you can notice here, all right, if I lost 437 to 378, so I moved to 4-3 on the season. But today I've got going some of these guys. So I got Yerman Mercedes going, Matt Olson, Gene Segura, Josh Johnson, Jake Cronenworth, Marcus Semien, Christian Yelich, Austin Meadows, Dylan Carlson, Manuel Margot, Avisail Garcia, and Yadier Molina. And I've got Frankie Montas and Zach Eflin on the mound. They're starting. Quick injury update is as followed. Dylan Carlson is day-to-day. Carlson back is out of the lineup for Sunday's game against the Cubs. Zachary Silver of the MLB.com report. So that's the injury update there. That was an update yesterday, and no new updates on him. Hopefully he's okay, though, because he's been a solid part for the team. And to have another injury, I finally got healthy, and to have another injury like that, my fantasy team finally got healthy, and have another injury would definitely be tough. But we'll see how it all plays out. So, anyway, that will do it for the podcast here today. Another very, very good podcast in the books. Like always, I will see you all back here tomorrow. Hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.